Welcome to Vet2Vet. I'm Conrad Kaskowski with the American Legion here in Plymouth. And with me is Dwayne Wick, also with the American Legion, although his cap is a little different. He is the county commander for the American Legion here in Sheboygan County. Well, we're going to approach this a little differently. We're only going to stay on one phase, and that is locally. And then we'll explain later. We'll go to the other areas that's available to veterans. But we want to kind of stay home right now. And what we're going to talk about is the County Veteran Service Commission. Oftentimes you hear CVSO, and sometimes they say it quicker, CVSO. Well, that's County Veteran Service Office. Now this service department is under the Wisconsin chapter, meaning it's a law that states, mandates each county in Wisconsin shall, they can either elect or appoint an honorably discharged veteran of the United States military service to the position of county service officer. And we personally know the one for Sheboygan County, and that is Todd Richter.
Yes.
And Todd already is off and running and doing a great job. But he has a lot of responsibilities, doesn't he?
He does.
And
he does.
What would be some of those that he has to account for?
Okay, well, first of all, they advise persons living in the service officers county who served in the U.S. Armed Forces regarding local, state, and federal benefits to which they may be entitled. He also will assist in resolving any problems veterans encounter, assessing the programs provided by the federal or state Veterans Administration. So right there's a lot of things involved. But also they provide service and assistance to qualified dependents and or surviving spouse to ensure they are informed of benefits they may be entitled. They also maintain records of burials of all veterans within the county. They cooperate with other local, state, and federal agencies to provide services to veterans and answer questions regarding veterans' issues. They serve as the executive secretary of the County Veteran Service Commission, which is also part of this, and it is comprised of 3 honorably discharged veterans who monitor a program to provide financial aid to needy veterans and their dependents.
Okay, now, Dwayne, for years and years and years, the county service officer was always in the Sheboygan County Courthouse. And then later, because of moving around things, they moved to the annex. So let's forget that. Let's talk about their new home, which is in Sheboygan Falls, correct?
Correct. Correct. It's out on Forest Avenue in the same building as the Aging and Disability Resource Center.
And if you need a GPS coordinate, that's 650 Forest Avenue, Sheboygan Falls. I don't think they have their sign up there yet,
No.
but it is coming. And I think the best way I've told somebody to look for it when I got them directed onto Forest Avenue was look for the place on the east side, and if you're coming in from Highway 32, it'll be on your left for the Wisconsin flag and the United States flag. And look closely and you'll see what it is. Drive all the way in the back, and there's plenty of parking. There's very easy access in.
Yes.
In fact, it's even wheelchair accessible. There's not even a little step. There's maybe just a bump at the door to get in. Office, right, plenty of room inside.
And they're right there. They're right on to the right of where the receptionist there, and yeah, it's very
It's
simple to
very
get to.
roomy. If anybody remembers when they were in the annex, that was pretty tight quarters.
Yes.
Now, before we get to flower up Todd too much, he doesn't do this all by himself, though, right?
Correct. Correct. He has Craig Stewart, a benefits specialist that works with him, and I was told that they are also hiring or have another benefits specialist with them. So there's at least 3 people there that are able to help the veterans as they come in. But you need to make an appointment. You can walk in, but they're busy. You may have to wait a while. The best is to call them and make an appointment.
Right. I mean, they're not going to turn you away right away as a walk-in, but you'll be unnecessarily have to wait, and probably, you know, they're going to ask you, because some of these get a little complicated, and they need the time to sit down with you to get it right the first time, and so you probably wind up making an appointment anyway. So, yeah, just call ahead of time. Now, we're gonna delve into something that sometimes gets people a little perturbed when they find this out. There is a definition regarding a veteran, and that is based on this chapter 45. In fact, it's under the definition section, which is 45.001. And it's recognition of persons who served in the armed forces. And it states directly, the state of Wisconsin recognizes as veterans the men and women of Wisconsin who served on active duty in the United States Armed Forces or in forces incorporated in the United States Armed Forces. The men and women who served in a reserve unit of the U.S. Armed Forces and the men and women who served in the National Guard. Okay, now, I think both, you and I have both encountered this, this little caveat, because under this section is what is referred to as parent 1, and the definition about active duty. Active duty does not include active duty for training purposes. Now, we had discussed this a little earlier. I know that there's some veterans from the 60s and 70s and probably 80s and maybe 1990s in the reserves, in the National Guard, and they served their entire time, and they did their weekend, and they did their 2 weeks, etc. And all of that was considered training. It's not according to the statute as active duty. You would have to be deployed under the
federal orders.
Under the federal orders of the president. So, and I know we've had some disappointed people, and when we went through this, and there's a specific line in that DD 214, and I forgot what it states in there, but if this is in there, that's what it means. It means that you were never on active duty, and that really hurts. And, you know, I can only say what the law says, and that's what it's all being based on. But the other rub is
they're eligible for the American Legion.
Okay, so
But
we want you in the worst way, even though the state of Wisconsin says, well, no, you're not really a veteran, but we consider you a veteran. Okay, so yeah, it does get a little touchy at times. I dealt with one individual, and he's not very happy, but you know, it's not something that any of us or any organization put together. It's just a definition of the state. And all this fellow wanted was a veteran's card for discounts, et cetera. And I said, no, it really doesn't go with that. But there are some minimum requirements still.
yeah, and it gets into, I'll go through these, but really eventually the best we'll discuss is to go down and talk to the CVSOs for getting all the other exceptions and things that may pertain to you. But in most cases, most veterans who enlisted after September 7th, 1980, or entered active duty after October 16th, 1981, must have served 24 continuous months or a full period for which they were called to active duty in order to be eligible. So again, this is before or after September 7th, 1980, and entered active duty after October 16th, 81. This minimum duty requirement may not apply to veterans who were discharged for a disability incurred or aggravated in the line of duty for a hardship or early out, or those who served prior to September 7th, 1980. Since there's since there's a number of other exceptions to the minimum duty requirements, the VA encourages you to apply, and they'll determine your enrollment eligibility.
And that's the key word. Now, I think we discussed at times, you're sitting at a place and you're having coffee, and the conversation all of a sudden turns to the Veterans Administration or the Department of Veterans Affairs or whatever, and this person says, well, Dwayne, don't waste your time. They're going to consider you, I know you were in the National Guard, and they're going to tell you, no, you're not eligible because you're not a veteran, so, I'll save you the time. And really, that's not a good professional source to go to determine that.
Right.
And what do you have to do?
They encourage you to go down to the CVSO, apply, and then your eligibility will be determined. You'll have it from right from the original source that can refuse you or you will be accepted.
And we ran into some other situations where people were denied because of income. And those rates and schedules change constantly. And again, it benefits you. I know some people, well, the one fellow I was dealing with did everything online. Well, that's fine, but you got to look at the bureaucracy that you're dealing with, especially with the Veterans Administration. I mean, you can't imagine, how huge this is. I think in Sheboygan County, there's over 8,000 veterans.
Right.
So if one day 8,000 veterans decided to go and see Todd, it gets a little crowded.
Yes.
So
But make an appointment. Go down there and fill out the paperwork, and you'll be determined whether you're eligible or not.
Right. Now, the next time around, and by the way, we're up to 6 viewers. It's doubled what we had, I think, the last time. We were at 3, so double. We're going to really be on a roll. We probably would like to take on the State Department of Veterans Affairs, and this is we'll talk about the things that Todd and his crew get into and some of the stuff that you're eligible for and really should be looking into seriously.
And the WDVA is right in the same building
That's
with
true.
them.
Yeah,
Right.
we got to mention that source is there for you too. So until the next time, we thank you for watching and just have a good time.